It never fails. Anytime I'm anywhere near Fayetteville or really BFE, Arkansas, if I turn on the radio, there will inevitably be someone who is talking about how the Razorbacks are going to win a natty. I'm like, what month is it? Is it May? Is the track and field championship next week? No. It's 100 degrees outside. We hadn't even gotten to October yet. Not that this would stop them. Dudes be like 2-2 before September is over, and still, it's we about to run the table, baby. Woo pig. Look, y'all, most Razorbacks know the difference between bacon and a pork belly, but some treat that pork belly like it's a swine fillet. So look, I know y'all are reeling from that oink doink last year. You had us, but you just couldn't get over the bar. Pun intended. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you how this is going to go. It's very simple, to be honest. On Saturday, A&M's going to treat Arkansas like any self-respecting deer lease owner would. We're going to set up our hog balls corral trap, complete with ample amount of corn scattered. Over on the side, I'm going to have my motion sensor camera to keep an eye out. All right? About 2 a.m., that sucker's going to send me an alert. I'm going to roll over from my slumber. I'm going to hit the button. The gate is going to drop. And y'all going to be squealing like a bunch of banshees. I'm going to go back to sleep. And when the morning comes after I have my breakfast, I'll load you up on the trailer, and then I'm going to haul you down to the local packing house, turn you into dog food. That's how it's going to be.
Going to throw here to Parker at the 20, at the 15, at the 10, 5. He is almost. He got a touchdown! He got.
Left center field. It could be. It is a home run.
Oh, doctor!
All right, now welcome to the Aggiecentral podcast. All you hogs out there, just go ahead and let me know how you feel about all that intro in the comments. You ain't got to like it, but it's funny because it's true. And I'm just trying to, be here having a little bit of fun. I'm your host, Central. The Aggies watching are looking for blood, and they want a little maroon Kool-Aid. They need a scratching itch. That's where we're at with this team right now. But that's gonna be a tough order, y'all. That's going to be a tough order, all joking aside. And as lopsided as this series has been recently, the Hogs are no joke. Okay? They're 2-2 on the year. Losses to BYU and LSU. They're going to fight you like hell and back and then take you there again. There is no team, in my opinion, who will give you all you can handle while being just 500 or worse than Arkansas. I don't mean that as a jab, y'all. So you Arkansas fans listening, I know sometimes you're down in the dumps, but y'all play hard as hell. Like any self-respecting wild boar, when that gate goes down, they will do their darndest to run through that trap. Their head be damned. This year's no different. Their team is big and nasty, top to bottom. Big and nasty. It all starts with KJ Jefferson too. These guys go and they work through him 100%. Everything goes through KJ Jefferson, okay? So what they're doing here, in large part, they are heavy RPO, okay? Hogs, if you're listening, tell me in the comments where I'm wrong. I'm not expecting to get your team entirely correct here. I have done a lot, but I'd love to have you in the comments letting me know. I'm here to inform my viewers about your team as best I can. But I don't know you inside and out, so let me know where I get some things wrong. But y'all are big-time RPO as best I can tell. That hasn't switched up a whole lot from Browse. We thought there was going to be a big shake-up with the two new coordinators over there. Browse left, a little bit of a hubbub. I guess not. Maybe it was the right decision. They really haven't seemed to skip a beat. It's got me wondering, like, how big of a deal is it these days to actually be switching coordinators? I think on offense, at least, a lot of teams are really just running the same stuff, and so it really translates over just, coordinator to coordinator. And what they want to do is they want to run that RPO with KJ, like I said, but they're trying to go through the running back. Now, Rocket Sanders, he's probably going to be out again this week. He suffered a knee injury, I think, in week 1. He's been out about 3 weeks now, and he's going to give way to Rashad Dubinion. And he's giving them y'all about 5 yards per carry. So he's a pretty handy back right now. Now watch out for AJ Green. This guy's probably going to be their future. And if he gets in the game, he's dynamic and he can really make some things happen. He's a good back. He's not that little either. So with that in mind, what they want to do then is get the ball down the field. KJ Jefferson a couple years ago when they first not even up series, when they first beat us, right, after so many years, they took a lot of shots downfield and completed a lot of those, a lot of big catches. They didn't do so well last year, and they're starting to come back around again. They're starting to get more of those downfield catches, but they've been actually victim to those this year. So they've still had some of those, and they're working out for them, but they've actually had a few of those happen to them. When we get to that with the defense, their wide receiver, Luke Haas, has emerged. This freshman, this last game against LSU, 6 catches, 116 yards, 2 TDs, and he's a big time part of their offense. He gives me a very much, if I'm trying to compare something that Aggies would know, a very much a Restrepo feeling to him, even though he's a tight end. He doesn't come across as a real huge guy for a tight end. He's still about 240, I don't know, 6'3 or 6'4. But this guy is really agile. Some of the catches this guy has made, it looks like he should be working for a circus. This guy's an acrobat. He has only actually been outdone by some spectacular catches by BYU and LSU, which is part of the reason why they are 2-2. It's not due to anything that Luke Haas has tried to do, that's for sure, because that dude has emerged and he is a force to be reckoned with. So we're going to have our eye on him the entire game. Okay, all eyes on him except when they're not on KJ Jefferson. Offensive line, they're a physical bunch. They're slow at times though, and they've really got a tendency to be susceptible on the edges. They hold up well in the middle though, but they have given up, I would say, they're a fair amount of sacks. So let's take a quick look at what these guys have been doing on offense. So a couple things jump out to me, right? So they're really doing well on third down conversions. That's their best stat of the bunch. They're 34th, but like I alluded to, their sacks, they're 103rd in sacks. So they're really giving up a lot of negative plays, and that's coupled with their tackles for loss. They're just not a great number that you want to see, 62nd in the country. And they're not really balancing that out with long plays. So they're only getting, enough production to warrant a 78th ranking in the country to balance out all the losses that they're having on offense. 10-yard plays, 20-yard plays, 30-yard plays. They've got some of them. They just don't have enough to make up for all the issues that they've had with giving up sacks by coverage or just sheer off the edge. KJ Jefferson's a hard guy to bring down, but he has still been, BYU and LSU have found a way to get to him. So they're rushing at a 3.7 yard per carry clip, doing 147 or so a game, kind of what you'd expect probably without Rocket. And they're only good enough for 77th. The offense is not really firing on all cylinders. They've got a nice wide receiving core. Maybe it's not that deep. They got some injury at running back. And the offensive line obviously has showed to have some problems. So that's why you can settle on a 77th rated offense with 5.7 yards per play for a total of 383. So that's their offense in a nutshell. And that's going to be going up against our defense. That's going to be an interesting matchup considering we just poked our head into the top 15, which is it's probably news to a lot of Aggies, to be quite honest. It just doesn't feel like that's where our defense is right now, but it is. Let's talk about their defense. DBs are supposed to be their strong suit. Actually, it depends on who you talk to. They might, or most hogs might actually say the defensive line is maybe their strongest suit, and that's fair. I think I would probably go with the defensive line at this point. Although you probably got some diehard folks that are going to say the DBs, but I'm going to make a case that it's not. That's not actually what's true, and it's actually going to be the defensive line. So let's start with them DBs. Now they are big and rangy. They have quite a bit of size, and I would say they're really good in coverage from what I've seen. I watched the BYU game closely. I watched the LSU game multiple times. I mean, you're going to have some busts. Aggies, we've had some of our busts. We've had pretty decent coverage, I would say. You're still going to have some things that pop up, okay? They're good in coverage. They know how to stay on a wide receiver. They like I said, they do have their busts. Their issue, from what I've seen, has really just been communication. So where the zones mesh and where responsibilities change is probably where they've had the issue. As the receivers working against them run in and out of those zones, they're not transitioning well. They're not prepared to take on the new responsibility and to give it up and then transition. And that's leading to some big plays by the other teams. More than that, they're not really doing that well in passes batted down. They've had a lot of times when they've been right there, they've been available to make the play, and it just hasn't worked out. Maybe it's that kind of year for them. It's hard to say, but right now, as you'll see when we show the stats, it's just not there for them right now. Although defense is definitely going to be their better side of things when it comes to either side of the ball. Defense is where they're strong comparatively, seen with the offense, and you'll see in just a minute. Defensive line, though, they're big and strong too. This team's nasty, up and down. Like I told you, they're just filthy. Some talent is definitely sprinkled throughout, but you've got experience and you've got size and you've got strength. That will be through and through on this team when you see them play on Saturday. More than that, they've got a lot of effort too, and you know that's going to show through in the defensive line. So they're real good at stuffing the run. That's definitely what they're best at. Sacks, okay. I mean, they do have some bursts of speed. In large part, quickness is not something they flex most of the time. Most of their sacks come from getting good push up the middle, solid coverage on the backside, and it results in what we know is a coverage sack. Keep your eye on Jackson and Jeffcoat, though. These are where their talent is sprinkled in my opinion. They're the real deal, but it really, on this defensive line, I would say it drops off substantially after that. That's where the story is on this side of the ball. First team, pretty good. And DB side of things, it doesn't matter that much. There's not going to be probably a lot of rotation, but the defensive line, it does. Games that I've watched, the things that I've taken note of, when the defensive line transitions out and you've got more of the second string guys, the backup guys, sort of the 1B guys, if you will, because really you've got eight starters. That's how we're running it anyways. When you got those guys in, there's a pretty substantial drop-off. Right now, we're feasting on that from the A&M side of things because we don't really have that drop-off. So that's just, we're not going our defense against their defense, but the mere fact that we can do that is kind of going to show at an advantage, I believe. So, like I said, moving on with the linebackers, they're backing up these guys. This is kind of a big change from years past. We've been used to watching them the last few years run a 3-3, and right now it's more of a 4-2. So two linebackers, and they've got two nice ones. Big guys, again, physical guys. Like I said, same thing's going to say throughout. They're not running that 3-3 anymore. The problem with that 3-3 that they were running, same kind of issues that we've kind of seen with it, is that you've got to read really well and react to the ball. They're constantly playing off the line, but they need to get to the line of scrimmage quickly. Well, I think last year that pretty much broke them of that when they had a really difficult time with it. Bumper Pool, 2 years ago, he was really good at it, and he would read just spectacularly, and he'd be right where he needed to be. But it's difficult because what the troubles that they're seeing, in my opinion, is that even when the other team is running, say, a heavy set, 11 personnel, 12 personnel, they're sticking with their 4-down linemen. They're not putting an extra guy on the line, not bringing up a nickel or anything. They're just leaving it kind of like a 4-2. And the nickel or the safety will flex down kind of on the edges. So what they're experiencing is their linebackers getting caught in traffic a lot of times, or they're just getting out of their gap. They're not very gap sound. I think that's their biggest weakness at linebacker. And then when they get caught out of lane or in traffic, the other team just blows it right by them. LSU did this quite a few times in the game. Really got some chunk yardage off of this. So let's take a look, see what this team's got going on defensively right now. Like I said, you can see total defense 42nd, so not too shabby, but their strength has definitely been in that rush side of things. 22nd, they're not allowing even 90 yards per game. But as I said, the pass defense, although you would think, and from a lot of what we've heard, that's supposed to be the strong suit, it's just not there. The numbers don't bear that out. Their strength is on the defensive line and the front 6 or 7. What they do really well, though, is they play downhill from the linebacking standpoint. And so they are constantly getting down into the box, and they stop those runs. They just have the problems whenever they get out of those gaps, as do everybody, but they can have those problems a little bit more often because of the way they have that. But it's a little bit feast or famine because they get a fair amount of sacks and they've got quite a few tackles for loss, so it kind of pays off for them. And it's some give and take that's going on with this whole thing. Not shabby on third down. They're not giving up a whole lot of long plays, but you can see how that switched a little bit, right? 22nd in rush D, 77th in pass D. From the rush side of things, I wouldn't have expected the defense, or rather the offenses they're facing, to have such a high rate of long play potential. So I would have thought maybe this defense would have been at least in the top 30 for that, but no. And that's also reared its head because this team is also not doing incredible from a scoring standpoint. They're definitely giving up some points. They're about in the same area, 40 to 50. Not giving up a whole lot of points, but a fair amount. A fair amount more than you would think that they would be doing based off of this. This almost reminds me of our team, I think. Was it back in 2019, 2018? We had one of the most stout run Ds that we've ever had, but we could not stop a pass to save our lives. So that's their defense. That's their defense in a nutshell. And this can get me to the keys for this game. I think what we need to do, first off, it'd be really great to have a turnover. We're not doing well in the turnover margin, y'all. Thankfully, it did rear its head in the Miami game, right? It hasn't worked out so terribly for us. We played well enough to, I'd say, overcome it. But we're really looking for some turnovers. When that starts happening, I think that's going to be a big breakout game for us. But it'd be nice to get some. If this game is going to swing, it's going to be in this area. Arkansas is doing well at getting turnovers. They are 17th in turnover margin. We're not even close to that. It might even be outside the top 100. If that is allowed to define this game could switch very quickly, okay? So that's going to be something that's really big. We are going to have to protect the ball. If we can even get one turnover and generate one on defense, it would really go a long way to stuffing some of that momentum that is probably going to, but it's probably going to happen inevitably when we do have a turnover, because that's not been a great area for this for this team so far. We're going to need to make some big catches, okay? We're going to need to limit Haas. And we're going to need to come away with the kind of one-on-one battles. Not necessarily the 50-50 balls. They haven't had a lot of those. But what they've had the issue with is just not being able to make the play. We saw Stewart make a play, and we've had quite a few other plays being made. Noah Thomas catching balls should be back this week, thankfully. We need to come away with more than those than they do. If they do, it could really bust this team wide open. Now, the way that they like to get these a lot of times is they like to take KJ Jefferson and they like to flex him outside of the pocket. They like to move him a lot. So what we need to do with him, this is my biggest key for the entire game, and that is to make KJ Jefferson one-dimensional. You can do it in a few ways, okay? So, and I'll go from most important to least important, or what I would prefer it be. The first way you can do it is just put a spy on him. I think this job's perfectly suited for Cooper. I am expecting us to have a specific spy on him. We're going to need to keep tabs on him at every moment. And even if we do, that still doesn't mean they won't generate long plays. They like to get him out of the pocket, and the receivers are really good at working away from the ball and continuing to work, battling for inches and yards to get themselves open, and they find wide receivers down the field quite often. So they do that really, really well, and we're going to need to limit that. So another way we can limit him is really just to get them in long second and third downs. So what that means is tee off on first. We need to be really good on first down. We need to get them behind the 8 ball. We need to get some tackles for loss. In the last game, we had 7 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, so 22 total negative plays. If we can generate stats like that again, that is going to go a long way to getting them behind schedule, which puts them in predictable down in yardages for us to call our defense. And if we can do that, we'll really put them in a situation where we can manage our defense in a way that doesn't have to account for all the dynamics that he offers, right? The final way to do it, this is the way I prefer, is probably the most, say, detrimental to their team and supportive of us beating them, is just jump out ahead of them, get on their ass quick, put 14 on the board. If we can make them get into a throwing game and not be able to run the game at all, this game going to probably get busted wide open, and then he won't be able to do any of the other things that he does. They like to work him. They like for him to run. They like to let him loose. And he would probably still do that one way or another, but it would be really nice to have him just focused on throwing. And that, to me, is the way to win this game. Final little something, little X factor. They're coming off of a loss to LSU. A little bit demoralizing. I listened to Sam Pittman's press conference. It doesn't sound well. I think they're reeling a bit right now. It's a good time to take advantage of that. The problem is, of taking advantage of that, is this is the team, if anybody can bounce back from it, it's this team. This will show us a lot about whether or not Sam Pittman can motivate this team, even though they might not need it, because they tend to want to beat our brains in. They're really good with that. They're really good at getting up for this game. But if we can capitalize on them reeling, then I've got some good predictions to go along for that. And so let's make them. Let's make them. Razorbacks, you still with me? Haven't you subscribed yet? You haven't? How are you going to come back here and talk all that when y'all win? Are you worried y'all going to lose? Then go ahead and subscribe. All the Aggies on here know, and I'll make them a deal. So if you've made it this far, there's no reason why you shouldn't be subscribing so far. Aggies, here's your deal. It's a 2-for-1 deal. Every subscription that I get, I will remove 2 street evangelists from the north side of Kyle Field. If you know what I'm talking about, that you must be rushing to hit that button right now. Otherwise, you can thank it yourself now for when you get to the Alabama game and you walk up, you can figure out all the ways in which you are going to hell. So, subscribe. Now, let me talk to you about this A&M team for just a minute. Razorbacks, take notes. Right now, we're 30th in total offense and 14th in total D. Does that sound like those numbers I put up for you? Y'all are a little bit all over the board there, right? We're not as much. We're pretty consistent. Both sides of the ball, top 30 right now. That's sounding pretty good. I know 4 games in, we haven't really played a whole lot. People are saying Auburn's not that good. You know what? They weren't saying that before the season. They were saying watch out for that game. That's a trap game. That's a game you could get caught on against Auburn, because it's Hugh Freeze, right? Everybody's giving Hugh Freeze a lot of credit. Well, we handled business, but I digress. So we were able to manage these numbers with this so far. Respect them, like them, do what you will with them. They are what they are. Y'all played LSU, you played BYU, you've got your numbers. right now on paper, I think the prediction makes sense. Okay? Right now, we're favored by 6.5 to win. Okay? Seems fair to me. My prediction is I think we cover that number. Okay? Overall, the team we're playing has solid talent. It's just not that deep. We have quite a bit more of it. And most recently, we have, I believe, found our identity on both sides of the ball. I'm hoping we see that same game this next week. And if it's that same identity, I don't think that looks good for Arkansas. I have us winning 30-20. Both teams' special teams, field goal kickers are very good. I think we're going to see quite a few in those. That's why I picked those numbers specifically. Not kind of odd, but they're so round. But I think we're going to see at least 2-3 field goals kicked by each team to give us those scores. So that's my prediction. We'll see you back on Sunday for a reaction, and I hope by then we are finally drinking some Kool-Aid.